Hey, Jolene. Hey, Jason. How are you?
Good today. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, thanks, very much for doing this with me today. I'm glad we're able to connect. It's not every day that I talk to time travelers because I only had the privilege once before to talk to people that are already, in the next day. So if anything happens, I hope you guys will let me know.
Oh, for sure. We'll let you know. And it's a pleasure to be with you here today, Adnan.
Yes, thank you for having us on your show.
Well, welcome to the Ozark Mountain Publishing Author Series, and today is your guys' turn. I'm very excited to talk to you about your book. The book is called A Quest of Transcendence, and but first, I would like you guys to get into some of your background information and tell me a little bit about yourselves before we get to the book. So, whichever one wants to start out, up to you.
For me, it turns out that it was a spiritual awakening that led me to start doing some research into what we as humans really have as a purpose in life. And so I'd been studying various aspects of spirituality for quite a few years before I stumbled across Dolores Cannon's quantum healing hypnosis technique. And so when I saw that her course had come available, um, I thought, I'll have a look into Dolores's work because I hadn't heard of her before. I was on a different path. And then she had a course running in 2011 in England. And I went along to that with my uncle. And so when we did her course, it was clear to me that what Dolores was teaching and where she was going with this technique was the next step for me because I'd already done the background work as far as a lot of spiritual work had, a lot of the spiritual work goes. And so I found a practical outlet with Dolores's technique so that I could help clients go back into past lives and discover information that was relevant to them where they are in their current position in life and help them connect the dots and move forward. And also the technique, especially the part where there is the opportunity to speak with the subconscious, that is very enlightening for people because they are able to understand that there is more to life than just this physical experience we're having. There is the spiritual aspect, which is very much highlighted when you've been through to see that, we have lived before. We have lived many times. And all of these memories are stored within our subconscious mind that we can access at any time. And so for me, this was just part of progressing on the spiritual path. And it was very, very interesting from a practitioner's point of view, just to see how deeply everything is intertwined on a spiritual.
Jolene, please, you go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, so I'll just start from where we met. So when Jason and I met, I was following my own spiritual path, and I was really on a journey of I wanted to know the truth of everything because there's so much information out there, but it's like, what is the truth of our reality, and what is the truth of me? What is my purpose here? And so I was forced on a sabbatical and moved to Wollongong. I had to sell everything and move to Wollongong and take a leap of faith. And after that, I met Jason. And so when I met Jason, I was a bit in a void. Like I was into consciousness, but I didn't really fully, I wasn't really conscious yet or really had a grasp of, what my spiritual path was all about. And anyway, Jason and I got chatting, and I was intrigued by his past life regression therapy, and I also had the privilege of having my best friend also studied under Dolores Cannon. And so it really did seem to be part of my destiny to experience it at the very least. And I've had the fortune of being able to have many swaps with Jason, because I was coming into my psychic abilities through the sabbatical. And we had some very fun swaps, and I had a lot of past life regression, which was very extraordinary, and it really got me interested into the whole spiritual aspect and the quantum aspect of spirituality and the multidimensional aspect of spirituality, which is quite profound.
And so then how did the book come about? What made you guys then finally kind of do this journey together?
So the book was very spontaneous, actually. It was something that came through in a past life regression that we were doing, and it was so spectacular that we thought we really need to put this into the long form version that it deserves, that would do it justice. And so immediately we had pretty much decided we need to write a book. And it just happened to come up at that particular time, and we progressed with that when we were able. It did take quite a while. The universe and spirit and all of that would dictate when a session would be able to come through, and that wasn't particularly on our time scale.
No.
We were looking at we'll do a session a week, and we'll get this book written. And sometimes it took 2 weeks between sessions, sometimes it was 3 or 4 or 5. It was more so of the importance of the information was that we were learning how to apply that in our own lives as we were going. And so that turns out that we did start to understand that along the way. We thought, okay, so we're actually not in control of when this information will come through. And it was very beneficial in the end that it worked that way, because we then had the time to put into practice these spiritual truths that were coming through in a very practical manner for us to receive the most benefit.
That's right. And when I met Jason, he'd always talked about wanting to write a book. And when this particular session came through, it touched me so deeply that the idea was put to me like, maybe this could be a book, maybe this could turn into something bigger, So when I approached Jason and came to him about his book idea and the session we'd had, because it had touched me so profoundly that I could feel that it could be something more. And so we had decided that we would go with it full steam ahead. And so we just did sessions, and it was really extraordinary because I go into a regression and it would become me. I would be feeling the emotions. I would be speaking like Melamine, and it started from a 12-year-old girl, and then the next session would happen, and it would just start off from exactly where we left off. And that was extraordinary to me, because everyone who knows me knows I don't have a very good memory. So we'd go into another session, and then it just, as it unfolded, it really started integrating into our lives. And we found that it would collaborate with where we were at that particular time. And it really did teach us that and force us to go into just going with the flow and completely surrendering to spirit. And instead of, forcing our particular, wants and outcomes or schedules, we were told to totally let all that go. And the more we tried to push our own, thoughts onto it, the more it would be delayed. And it was quite, it put us on our own quest of transcendence, really, because it really did force us to integrate what we were bringing through into our own lives.
So can you please tell me a little bit more about the process specifically, and then also where this journey then took you that you then ended up writing about?
Okay, so the process itself started with a typical past life regression or quantum healing hypnosis technique session. And fortunately for us, Jolene was also developing her psychic abilities, which just gave her a little bit of an edge where whatever she was able to see, she was seeing it very vividly, very clearly, and able to also respond very clearly and bring that information through in such a way that it was like she was living it firsthand at the time, and it was like I was getting that information as if it was happening there and then on the spot. And so it was a very lifelike experience in bringing these sessions through. And so it developed over time to become an even stronger bond. And also with the conscious being called Melamine, who we were in touch with, who she was sharing her story of the realm in which they lived, which was a very spiritual realm. They had been born into the type of spiritual awareness that we are too in a way, but they nurtured that from day one. They were taught all about spirituality from the earliest ages, and they were taught about the chakras, about the aura, about the energy systems, about how we interact with each other on an energetic level as well as a physical level. Like, we can talk with each other, but how are we interacting with each other energetically? Our auras interact with people depending on how big our auras are. They will expand out, and we will have an understanding of a feeling or of a person or of a situation or of a place well before we even get close to them. And so in their world, having experienced that and been taught that from early on, by the time we were in touch with Melamine at 12 years old, she was sharing spiritual truths with us that, we hear from at the moment. We hear these from the masters in our realm. And she's discussing these as if they're commonplace, common knowledge. And it really was an amazing experience. Follow her journey then, because in the next session, we pick up where we left off, but it sort of also, it flows in a way where we move along to the next most important time, which is also very similar to the quantum healing hypnosis technique. You go to the most appropriate time and place in each session. And so we found that happening with the book too. We met her when she was 12 and explained her background. And then we caught up with her again, and she explained more of her realm. And eventually we caught up with her when she was 15, and we just delved into all of these important aspects of her life where she was also experiencing her spiritual awakening, but on a vastly greater scale.
Mm.
And so through the sessions, if I understood you correctly, you tried not to then push your own things that you thought you needed to talk about. You just let the process flow. So what kind of information was coming through?
Can I?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when Jason would take me through the technique, the way Dolores Cannon has set up the quantum healing hypnosis technique process really was for a safe container. So we added to that and made sure that not only were we protected through the session, but only the truth. So not any of my input, not any of Jason's input, but only the clear and true message that was needing to be brought through would come through. So we were very clear about that, from the very start and at the initial onset of every session. And so from that point, it got accelerated quickly, where Jason wouldn't have to do the whole process of taking me through into a quantum healing session, but he would just do the golden light pyramid protection and, doing the making sure that it was clear and precise and that it was truthful. And then I would immediately jump in. And it wasn't just a psychic thing for me. It was surprising because it was like a full body experience, which was it became even more personable through that experience. And I have to say that there were many, many times where I would question whether I was making this story up, because, maybe it was my imagination, maybe, the subconscious and the mind is so complex. We don't understand a lot of it still. And but then when I would be doing the transcriptions of the recordings, it was like I would know that was not me. That did not come from me, because I didn't know half of this information. And on top of that, it wouldn't have come through so cleanly and clearly in such a clean timeline of events. That wouldn't have come naturally from me. It would have been more chaotic. So that was quite enlightening, realizing that we are living a multidimensional reality, and through the quantum healing hypnosis technique, it became quite clear of how you can jump in and out of timelines and pull through precisely what we need now. And, the message that Melamine shared with us, and sharing her life and her realm, is what humanity is really moving towards in a 5D reality of living. And when you look at it that way, the message is clear that what they are offering us, Melamine and Auburn, is a chance to bring the 5D way of life here in this reality through consciousness and through universal law, natural law, and love. And it profoundly hit us so much that it has impacted our lives and changed our own lives.
Is there anything specifically that you could share with us, just about maybe their environment, or something specific steps on our end? Because all of us, we always know that we should love each other, be good to each other and all that. But, very few people take those steps seriously. It's like only those that truly
sure.
mean it do they see the change. So was it something along those lines, or were there any, basically what was it that they both gave you?
That was very much addressed. And it was in that Melamine shared her journey of how she had to learn to love herself first. And through their schooling, it encouraged. It's actually part of the process. And I don't want to give too much away because there are clear steps as how she has managed to do that. And it's true that if you love yourself, you have the full ability to love others, and you bring, through loving yourself first and foremost, you therefore automatically bring more love into the realm. So, and because you have the experience of loving yourself and how to love yourself in the ways that you should love yourself, therefore you have the skills and the ability to love all those around you that you have in your heart.
Jason, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, and so she did provide very practical examples of how she was taught to do that, and also the effects that it had. She was also quite surprised that these teachings that at the time she had to learn because of her schooling, she wasn't necessarily interested in a lot of her teachings, because she had other things she'd rather be doing. She wanted to be doing all of the fun stuff. She didn't really take that as seriously like we do as well. It's like in certain things. So once she then had to do it and fully grasped that information, and then experienced the positive benefits of those teachings, she then really did reiterate, okay, so I understand now the importance of having to do this first, in conjunction with all of the fun stuff as well. It was all related, but the importance of having to focus on getting it right for herself, learning how she functioned, how she interacted on all of these other levels, and if she was falling down in any way, how she could help bring herself back up. And it became something that over the years was very beneficial when she got into certain situations where she had to dig deep and draw upon her knowledge. And it is something that we have then also practiced bringing into our lives, because a lot of these things are overlooked because we're too busy trying to get things done on different levels, and so it was very beneficial for us to stop and think about what she had to say and take that on board.
So maybe I missed it. So are they just interdimensional beings on a different timeline, living their lives, or are they us? Can you clarify?
So at first, we weren't sure if it was a past life of mine or if we were actually talking to another being of some sort. And so we just walked with it for a little while just to try and find out what would unfold along the way. And then, not too far in, we did realize that we were talking with a consciousness in a parallel existence, so in another dimensional reality, which is parallel to our own. And when you read the book, you do actually see how there are some correlations that are happening between their realm and our realm, which is a spiritual warfare. And she talks about how this spiritual warfare unfolds within their own realm and how they deal with it.
Can you explain that just to me a little bit more, like actual conflict, or is it just
Yes.
another way of describing just an internal struggle and what to do?
It was beyond an internal struggle because we'd experienced Melamine going through her own personal struggles and journeys. This was actually an interference and an infiltration of a spiritual warfare kind where they had to battle.
So I'm assuming,
and it was a battle of the minds.
with weapons from
And
their
it was a battle of
time.
the minds.
Sorry.
I was
Sorry, we didn't hear that.
I'm assuming with weapons that they had during their time, or is it more again on the spiritual level, to where just energy is being thrashed around? I don't know
Yes.
how else to say it.
So it was
Yeah.
it was a very it began on an energetic level, and so they noticed discrepancies in their realm. So, for example, just catching something out of the corner of your eye that was sort of like a glitch, but seeing something that's not quite right.
And a feeling of not quite right.
Yes, and feeling
Yeah.
that uneasiness of something.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, they weren't so sure. And so they mentioned that to their own council of the Federation. They were also in touch with their neighboring planets. And so they brought that to the attention of everyone that, you know, we've seen these things going on in the atmosphere, these anomalies. And it turns out that other people were also experiencing those same things and had brought their experiences to the table, and were openly discussing what it could be, but without so much information to work with at the time. And so it was infiltrating on an energetic level, but as we progress, we found that it was able to work on the psychological level. It was able to try and influence people, or even in some stages take control of people. So along the way, we're seeing how they were trying to infiltrate on a subtle level, which we can also feel, you know, like this is how we function as human beings on the spiritual levels, with our chakras and our auras, and all of this information is coming to us from these other levels before we actually start to make sense of it in our own thoughts. And so they were able to come up with ideas of how they could then try and work out, where is the battlefield? How do we fight such an influence if they don't even need to show themselves physically? Although they had presented themselves on certain levels so that they may have more influence. They tried to appear big and strong and angry and just manipulative and overpowering, to try and have people come under their power. But because they were quite an advanced spiritual race, they also understood their own power of being able to stand in their strength and work together. And through their own powers of meditation and working together on the spiritual levels, and all coming together in numbers to create a force against this power, they were then able to buy some time to work out where the information lay, so that they could really come at this from a position of strength.
So, Jolene, I wanted to ask you, so you were saying that there's this correlation in between their parallel world and ours. So are you suggesting then things like UFOs and ghosts on our end that are always ever so elusive, that it was something along those lines that eventually they kind of stopped and started dealing with it?
They have technology in their society as well that actually creates a better society that supports a social structure that allows everyone to come into their purpose. They have, and it's normal. It's normal that when a child is born, the mother and father connect with the child telepathically and teach that child of its own telepathic awareness. It's a normal thing, whereas in our realm, all that knowledge has been lost, but it's coming back to us. And through this book and through the experience of Melamine and Oberon, we can actually bring that knowledge and that reality to this space once again.
So then, what I was asking, regarding this correlation, then was this something similar to what we are always perceiving as the metaphysical, like like UFOs and ghosts and whatnot, or are we talking about something
definitely.
entirely different?
So we're talking about, what we perceive as UFOs is just their transportation vehicles that take them to other realms. And who we consider as aliens is actually their brothers and sisters from another galactic realm. Like it's just normal to them, whereas to us, we perceive it as something beyond us because it's being cut off from us. So once we bring our awareness back to our own telepathic abilities, because we all have them, once we open our pineal gland, and we can start seeing interdimensionally, well, UFOs and aliens and all those sorts of things become a reality, and they are a reality. And one day we are looking forward to when it's just normal, just like in their realm.
But they're not necessarily those negative forces and influences that they were dealing with.
Oh, no. So they live an ideal civilization, one that we could only dream of right now. But we have the potential to bring to this realm if we're prepared to take up the fight and the sacrifice to get us and humanity to that space. And their message is to assist us on that level.
Which then also comes back to the level of consciousness that we are operating in, the raising of that level of consciousness. And we find ourselves naturally doing that, as there are a lot of people waking up now and who really are walking the spiritual path and looking into, how can I become a better person? How can we all live better lives? How can we all work together towards that common goal, which can only happen through becoming more aware of our surroundings and each other, so that we can live more conscious lives. And we find that this is where they are already. They are already interacting with their neighbors in the galaxy on a very conscious level. And despite all of that, they still have a negative outside influence trying to affect all of them. So regardless of your level of achievement, there are still challenges from those entities or energies who would like to infiltrate to take it for themselves. And that's where they were finding these types of things starting to make themselves known and trying to infiltrate. And so we find that here as well. We have a lot of influence from very many different angles of trying to hinder our spirituality. And so on their level of consciousness, they were sharing with us information of how we can raise our level of consciousness because of the infiltrations that we're finding in our development. There are those energies that try to hold people back from awakening or from developing spiritually, just distractions of all types to try and move people away from the path. And it's not a straight road from A to B. There are places that we need to go along the way to experience whatever it may be that is going to be beneficial for our spiritual development. But there are also those infiltrations and energies that are determined to sway us from that path permanently. And so this is where we have to have the strength to return to that space where we can draw upon the truth, our spiritual truth, which we know we have within, we feel within. It is part of our purpose in life. And so Melamine in her dimension was able to really help reinforce their teachings that they have very much, I wouldn't say perfected, but they are very much on the path of moving into the higher realms of spirituality and consciousness that we are striving to achieve here too. And so the key takeaway was basically remember who you are and don't get distracted as much as these infiltrations will appear. We need to be strong and live the truth.
In your assessment, how are we doing so far? If you can give me a little bit of info on that, just to kind of seeing what you see around us and what they've been telling you. Is it going the path it's that's beneficial or not really?
Well, they did share some insights, more so towards the end of the book, where they were quite impressed with our progress on the path, considering the level of influence here. So from what they were experiencing as being the onset of an infiltration in their world, Melamine was also, through our connection, through speaking through Jolene, she was also able to see into our world, see the conditions that we're living under, and how deeply the infiltration has affected our planet and the people of the planet and everything in between. And they were actually pleasantly surprised of how well we're doing as a human species to actually make any progress at all. That they can see that just the level that we, if anyone who understands what our planet is undergoing at the moment, from a spiritual level all the way down to the physical level, with the constant wars and everything like that, they were very surprised that amongst all of this, we were still able to find spirituality, and some people were really able to thrive in spirituality. And that gave her even more encouragement of sharing all of her spiritual truths that she had learnt, so that we could benefit from that, because they were also benefiting from seeing our realm in the state that it's in, because that would then give them the motivation to actually do something about it. Because if they don't step in and try and remove that infiltration in their realm, as little as it was in the beginning, it creeps in and it grows and it gets bigger and bigger. And she could see through our realm how it was going to end up in their realm if they did nothing.
Yes.
Jolene, is there anything else you would like to add?
So in Melamine's realm, when they started to see that there was something going wrong, that there was something amiss, like Jason said, everyone came into action and they came together, and they came together not just as Melamine's realm, but also the sister planets. And they knew they had to do something, and they didn't have the answers straight away. And they had to go, Melamine had to go on this big quest to try and find the knowledge that would help their realm. And through that, they could see, Melamine could see what was happening in our realm through, communicating with us. And through that experience, she was able to relay to the Galactic Council as to what was lying ahead. And because they had the foresight, they were able to come up with the answers. And the answer really was natural law and teaching universal law to everybody. Because when you have the truth and you have the knowledge, then you are armed to give yourself the wisdom and the foresight to do what is necessary in that particular moment. And it's like we had to learn to go with the flow. And in that same energy, that's how they found their answers, just through facing the truth and facing the reality and coming together and finding solutions. And that really is their message to us, that through us coming together and for us seeing the light in each other in the same way that they see the light in all of us, we can come together and we can make this place the way we want it to look like. And also understanding too that we're not alone in this, that we are being supported, that as there is a force of good, that as there is a force of evil, there is a force of good. And that we are being supported, we are being facilitated through this journey that we are coming into, and we are coming into a new earth, just as Dolores Cannon has told us on many occasions when she was with us. And this book really does give us a step-by-step as to how we can get to the new earth through their experience of actually living it.
Well, thank you for that. I think that was a great conclusion to the whole aspect of the book, because to go into any more, then we'd just be talking about whatever else is in it. So
yes,
I basically just want to leave you both with whatever else you would like to leave the viewers with, if there's anything. Otherwise, I believe I will have some links. If there's some links you would like to mention, I'll have everything in the description below, where people then that are interested can buy your book and read up more on it.
Yeah, that'll be great. Well, why don't we talk about, if we could mention our website?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, sure. So if people would like to learn any more about past life regression or other parallel existences, they can go to our website, which is jandjtierney.com, Tierney, and there we have videos and articles and so much more that you can look into.
And also the link to the book straight to Ozark Mountain Publishing, or wherever you may like to buy it, at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. And there's quite a few regressions on our page as well, if people just want to get more of an overview of our work. The book itself is pretty much the pinnacle of what we have achieved so far using QHHT.
Well, great.
And we
thank you both.
We just love sharing that with people too. We just love sharing the story of Melamine and Auberone with people.
It sounds very exciting. Right. It sounds very exciting and very, especially for those that want to know what's going on right now. It would be, if anything, just to be a starting guide. Everyone has to start somewhere. Exactly. If you're more advanced, you'll get more out of it. If you're just beginning, then you'll just get the beginning out of it. And as you learn more, you're like, oh, let me get back to this book. It was talking about this and that. So, I guess it all depends on from which eyes each person is looking at it. But thank you both again. I'm glad we're able to connect today, and it worked out all great time-wise, considering that, again, you guys are time travelers, and I'm glad we matched our times up.
Thank you, Adnan.
Thank you so much. It's been great speaking with you on your show.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, you guys have a good day, and hopefully we can do this again sometime in the future. But for now, you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. You enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.